Hi, welcome to Just Common Sense. I'm Brian Harrison, and I have Jerry on the phone with us tonight. It's been a while since we've both been on here. Hey, Jerry.
What's up, Brian?
Not much. So, guys, we're going to be doing a lot more podcasts finally. We've been talking about it, and especially with everything that's going on. And there's a lot to talk about, a lot. Tonight, we're going to do a brief podcast, maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes, maybe tops. And then we're going to continue to do that every so many nights. We're going to try. I don't know if Jerry's going to make it every night. I'm going to be doing it otherwise, and other people will be on here as well. So we'll be talking about a lot of things. And obviously, what do we want to talk about tonight? We're going to talk about everything that happened in the Oval Office with Ukraine, Zelensky the other day, what all happened. And I want to tell the truth of what's going on out there, not what people are looking at. People are looking at splices of videos, especially on CNN, NBC, all that stuff. They're seeing these splices, but they're not looking at what happened to the whole video. You got to go from the beginning of the video to the end of the video and watch everything. And that's what really happened. And Trump did the right thing. And so did Vance. Vance did a great job. Jerry, what's your thoughts?
Absolutely. It's about time that we have a vice president that will stand up and say what needs to be said. For many years, we've just had a vice president that sat back and nodded his head when the president said something and said, "Oh, yeah, I agree." And it's like, Vance has been fantastic from, when he was over in Germany a couple of weeks ago to the other day in the Oval Office. And we need a vice president that shows that he is ready to step in if need be. And this is the first time in a long time that we've had one. I know, Mike Pence was a pretty capable guy, but he never stood up to anybody the way that JD Vance did.
No, and JD Vance has military background, by the way. He was in the military, so when he was speaking Zelensky the other day in the Oval Office, and Zelensky says, "But you weren't there." He knows what's going on. He gets all the updates. He gets everything. He knows exactly what's going on over there. And being military, he knows more than most people there.
Well,
So,
not only that,
yeah,
with the equipment that we have nowadays and the ability to send information and
right,
things like that. I mean, I was like, you don't necessarily have to actually be there on the ground. And
right,
Vance made that also very clear that when Zelensky brings people over, that they get the little celebrity tour, where he
yeah,
takes them around and shows them all the stuff that he wants them to see.
correct,
But you're not necessarily getting all of the information that you might really need.
right, which
He can
is,
get that
yeah,
off news feeds and
yeah.
intelligence reports and things like that.
Right, and it kind of goes back to any other country when they were doing when they were checking North Korea. They were going in there and checking their nukes and things like that. They were only allowed to see certain things, and it's the same thing. It's the exact
Right,
same thing.
absolutely.
So, and that's what the American people are out there. So, hey, let me tell you something, guys. I want to talk about mostly Democrats, some Republicans. Okay, I want to say this. Give me a minute here, Jerry. We do, and I want to say Trump, Vance, everybody supports Ukraine. We support the people. We think they've done a great job. They've done a fantastic job. And we support their military. We support the people. We're not against that. Don't think anybody is against that. And no, Trump is not Putin's puppet. Trump is negotiating a peace deal. Let me ask, and I'm going to say this. Give me a minute, Jerry. I'm asking you guys out there, we're going to talk about this for a second. So, what were you thinking you were going to get out of this, you Democrats out there that are posting all these flags of Ukraine and everything and going against Trump? What do you think was going to become of this? I mean, he goes in there. We got to do a peace deal because this war is not going to be won. It's just not going to be won. And how, I mean, to go in there and not do a peace deal, and this guy doesn't want to do a peace deal, it sounds like, well, it's going nowhere. And he kept asking about money. He wanted to get money. He wanted to get support that way. And we've handed so many billions of dollars out. It's ridiculous. And it's not working. It really isn't working. And the Biden administration was a big mess, didn't even hand them the right weapons from the beginning. If he would have done that, did the planes, did all this stuff that was in the beginning of this war may have been over with. They may have backed out of Ukraine, Russia did, and back to normal. And that may have been the case if we had a strong president that knew what they were doing and didn't care about, politics, I'll say. Your thoughts, Jerry?
Yeah, I don't think it's politics. I think
Oh
Biden
yeah,
was cashing in. And I think,
yeah,
I mean, when you look at, the whole impeachment thing on the first impeachment
yeah,
was that, Trump on the phone with Zelensky wanted Zelensky to look into um, the particular prosecutor. And that was the prosecutor that was looking into the company that Hunter Biden was working for. So
yeah.
I think that what you've got here is, in addition to incompetence on the part of Zelensky at this point,
Right.
I think there's a significant amount of corruption.
Yeah, and I'll say I think in the beginning of all this, Zelensky was trying to do the right thing, but he got caught up in all the money. I'm going to say it, Jerry. I think he got caught up in all the money. They can't account for all that money. I'm saying it's possible. I mean,
Right.
that's it. And this is a war that's killing lots of people on both sides. We don't want to see that. We don't want to even see the Russian people. We're not against the Russian people. We may not like the government. We may not like Putin. I mean, but Zelensky, I don't care for him either. I mean, they're both kind of the same cloth, just in different ways. Putin may be worse. I'm going to say it that way. But if you look at Zelensky's background, he's done some pretty bad stuff too. Your thoughts, Jerry? Am I right on that?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, it's like you and I were talking about earlier today. Is
Yeah.
like, I mean, when Zelensky first started, when this war first started, he was a new president, and
Yeah.
he needed, to get his feet under him, everything like that, and he was doing a lot of the right stuff. But then, once the money started rolling in, I think that he started seeing the opportunity to cash in and get
Yeah.
wealthy. And I think he was thinking that he could wind up getting wealthy and be a national hero,
Right.
by, being the president during a wartime and everything like that. So I think that the other day should have been a wake up call for a lot of people in the Oval Office, because here's Zelensky and Trump saying, hey, look, I want to stop your people from getting killed. And Zelensky's trying to renegotiate the terms of what had already been discussed so that he could get
Right.
more money. And
Yeah.
that's basically how it's worked for him since he's been at war, because every time he approached Biden, Biden just gave him more money. And I think Zelensky thought that if I go in there and play hardball, and another reason that he did that too was
Mhm.
the other day when that was going on, I was watching it live, and
Right.
uh, he was like 20 or 30 minutes late to the meeting. And, that's not the best way to start off with somebody that you're getting ready to ask for something, is to show up late.
Right.
And, especially somebody of Trump's stature. And so then,
Mhm.
I was listening to one of the guys talk about, like, how could he be late? He's across the street. And so then he comes over, and then later in the day, you find out that he was across the street in a hotel ballroom meeting with a bunch of senators and congressmen that were telling him, how to get over on Trump and not to sign the agreement. And so, I mean, after I learned that, it made more sense how he acted in the Oval Office, because he
Mhm.
thinks the American government is behind him standing up to Trump.
I mean,
And so,
mhm.
you know, but
Let-
that's just, I mean, that's, and those Congress people, and, I
yeah.
mean, they should be held accountable somehow. I mean, it's like, what are they doing meeting with a world leader to tell that world leader not to work with our president?
Okay. And now let me ask you, where did you get this information from? I'm just curious.
Oh, multiple channels. I've been, watching Charlie Kirk, Steve
Okay.
Bannon,
All right.
David Harris Jr. I've been on different websites,
Okay.
yeah. And it's like, so apparently, and there's video of it,
Yeah.
of him
Okay.
meeting with these Congress people.
Okay. Good
And
to know. I
and
didn't know
mostly
that.
Democrats,
Yeah.
some
Of
Republicans, but
course.
mostly Democrats. But I mean, what kind of sane person that truly is working in the best interest of America would allow a world leader to show up here in the United States and then tell them that the whole reason for their trip, which was meeting with our president and to start working towards peace, and then tell
Right.
him, hey, by the way, you know, don't work with him. Yeah, well, that was the whole reason Zelensky was here, was to work with Trump on the peace deal.
Right. Right. And I've heard the rumors of that, and I saw some things out there, but I just wanted to get some facts here about
Yeah,
that,
no,
where
I
you were getting
saw the
that from.
video
That's
of it,
why I asked you.
and at first I thought it
Yeah.
was file footage from a couple of years ago, and then they were like, yeah, this was this morning before he went over, and I was like, what?
Yeah.
So he was meeting with members of our Congress, right before he met with the president, and those members of our Congress were telling him to, not work with the president, which was the whole reason he was here. That just caught me off guard.
Wow. And they had everything set up. I'm going to go into, give me a minute, Jerry. They had everything set up. They even had a lunch set up for him. They had everything set up perfectly. They were going to do a mineral deal, and which is a fantastic idea. I mean, obviously, that's the way to pay some of the money back that so many billions we've given them. And that's a great way. We're going to get minerals out of it. We're going to be right there with people working with them. So Russia shouldn't be attacking our people. They're going to say, well, wait a minute. They got people on the ground. We can't go after them. And they're civilians, a lot of them. So no, that's not going to happen. If they did, then all hell would pay. But that would be a great thing right there. And it was all set up, ready to go. And possibly what you're talking about here, Jerry, is this is what probably happened or did happen, it sounds like, which is causing a big problem. And if you did that as a senator or a congressman or woman, you should be held accountable for that. You should definitely be held accountable because this is about protecting the American people, not Democrat, not Republicans, all American, and not even just that, even people of Ukraine. If they did that, they should be held accountable, and then they should be taken to court, whatever the case may be, or kicked out of office completely. Thoughts, Jerry?
No, absolutely. And I mean, it's not wartime for the United States, but
No.
if it were,
Yeah.
that falls under the purview of treason.
Yeah,
You
and I
know,
was going to say that. I was, but I figured I'd leave that. I knew you were going to say it if I let it go back to you. And that's
yeah,
true.
I
I
mean,
was
because
thinking it.
you're working against your own government
Yep.
with a foreign government because Zelensky really is the government.
Right.
He hasn't allowed elections in,
Yeah.
a couple of years because he's using the, oh, we're at war thing, which by the way, too, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
everything I understand is he has bought expensive houses in the United States, or I should say an expensive house. I don't know how many, but
Right.
there's been all this money that he has been spending and investing, and that's why I think that he's not ready for a peace deal yet because he's not ready to give up the paycheck.
Right.
And when you look back the last 2 months with Trump's administration asking questions, or not even 2 months really, and they've been like, well, hey, we need to account for this money. Oh, well, we don't know where it is. We don't know where it went. We didn't get it all.
Yeah.
And that should just be a red flag to anybody
Right.
that's paying attention
Right.
that the grift is in because now, oh, you don't know where the money went. What do you mean you don't know where it went? I mean, you don't know if it went to your army or if it went to your
Yeah.
infrastructure for rebuilding a bridge that was blown up or something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, stuff like that, that's a big deal. And if you said you got a couple 100,000 missing here and a couple 100,000, that's still a substantial amount, but not
Oh, yeah.
billions.
Yeah. Well, the whole thing too, when they were going in, like I said earlier, when he was going in there with Trump and Vance, and he kept talking about this 300 billion, he kept talking about all this stuff with Russia. He kept talking about U.S. U.S. should give guarantees, but U.S. ain't gonna guarantees when you're in the middle of a war. I mean, when I just think it's crazy.
Well, sure, because Trump has already said that he's not going to put American
No,
troops on the ground.
no,
And that's what Zelensky wants to hear is that we're going to put American troops on the ground. But
right,
Trump has already told his own country that that's not going to happen. So,
no,
I mean, you can't, let Zelensky walk in and start dictating to Trump. I mean, let's just say that these two countries were not in the position they're in. Let's say that Ukraine was not in a war and they were not looking for, some sort of assistance in winning their war. Trump is a far more important president than Zelensky is.
right,
Zelensky may be important to his own people,
sure,
but in the grand scheme of things
mm-hmm.
and, just in generalities, Zelensky is not that important globally. And
Right,
Trump is important globally.
right,
And so, with Zelensky coming in, he's got to remember that it's like, if you want to come in here and play that little game of, oh, I met with some of the Congress members and they told me, don't agree with Trump and don't sign the agreement and everything like that,
right,
you're playing a very dangerous game because Trump's the guy that has to sign up. This isn't
yeah,
Biden, like you said a few minutes ago.
no,
Biden just was like, oh, you want money? Sure. How much do you want? Oh, yeah, we'll do this. And Trump actually knows what's going on in his administration, what's
yeah,
going on in the country. And my wife and I were watching him
Yeah.
this morning before she went into work, and he was answering questions at this press conference, and there's no way that Biden knew what was going on in the
Right.
world, in his own administration, in his own country. And Trump is like answering questions. He
Hmm.
didn't have to,
Yeah.
pass it off onto somebody else. He knew what was going on with Ukraine. He knew what was going on
Right.
with Russia. He knew what was going on. So, that's what's important. Zelensky thought he was going to come in here
Hmm.
and, say, hey, I need this money really bad. And when it didn't work, then he started getting a little bit rude. And by the way, if you listen to any of Marco Rubio over the last couple of days, he talks
Yeah, I
about
have.
even what was happening before they were on camera,
Right.
and how
I've
Zelensky was
heard.
walking around like he owned the place, and
Yeah.
chest puffed out, and nose in the air and everything like that. And that,
Yeah.
so
Well, and let's just be honest. Are they part of NATO?
no.
Bingo. There it is right
And it's
there,
like,
guys.
well, see, and that's part of the reasons
Yeah.
that Russia is saying that they invaded, was
Right.
because Ukraine was trying to become part of NATO. And back when NATO first started, I guess one of the agreements with
Hmm.
Russia to keep a war
Right.
from starting was that NATO would not expand to any country that had a direct border with Russia.
Right.
But that has changed over the years, because when the Soviet Union broke up,
Right.
Poland, which had been
Yep.
treated very poorly under the Soviet Union, Poland wanted to join NATO. And
Right.
so, Poland was accepted into NATO. Well, Poland does have a direct border with Russia. And I
Yeah.
think that what Russia was looking at is, as other countries have joined, that Ukraine was one of the last countries in to the west and the south of Russia
Right.
that was not a NATO country. And if Ukraine became a NATO country, then basically you would have to go east into the stands, Kazakhstan, Afghanistan,
Yep.
Kurdistan. You'd have to start going east for Russia to not have a NATO country on their border, because, Finland, Sweden, and then if you get Ukraine, Ukraine was going to be a NATO country. And
Right.
it's like, and I think that that's what, Russia was looking at, but that's no
Yeah.
excuse to
And
invade a country.
right. And we don't need to. Obviously, we protect. I mean, we're protect NATO and things like that. But again, they are not. Their country's not part of NATO, and that's a big problem here. They were to be a different story, and just
And
like
that's
you
why they
said.
wouldn't allow Ukraine to
Right.
join NATO once the war started,
Right.
because once you're in NATO,
Yep.
the NATO countries are bound to defend any member that is
Right.
attacked. So, if we would have allowed Ukraine to join NATO
Yeah.
while the war was going on, then yes, England, the US, France, and all those other countries would have been bound to defend Ukraine.
Right.
And I keep hearing people saying, oh, well, NATO should do this and NATO should do that.
And
And
they
I said,
can't.
no.
No.
I said, you got things mixed up. First off, NATO,
Right.
that's not what they do.
Nope.
They're defense against Russia,
Right.
and or previously the Soviet Union, now Russia.
Yeah.
And then, so, they're there to defend other countries in Europe against aggression from Russia. So, unless a NATO country is attacked, NATO is not an organization
Right.
that should be taking military action. And so my friend Mike that I was talking to said, well, then who should do it? And I said, well, that would be the United Nations.
Right.
And he said, well, why isn't the United Nations doing anything? And I said, because the
Right.
United Nations has crazy rules, and they've allowed China and Russia and North Korea over times to be the head of their Security Council.
Yep.
And so when the UN Security Council meets, they always throw one of those countries always throws the veto vote and says, no, we can't do anything against Russia.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's like, but that would be the United Nations, which
Yeah.
frankly, that thing needs to just go away.
Yeah.
anyways.
Exactly. They are useless.
Yeah.
The thought behind them was a great idea, but they don't do what they're supposed to, and that
Well, they
thing's a
came
mess.
around at a different
Yeah.
point in history, and
That's true.
it made sense when they were founded, but now it does not.
Right.
Especially
But
not. Yeah, I mean, maybe what they ought to do is get rid
yeah.
of the UN building in New York,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, have the UN become like a floating organization where it goes from country to country for meetings, just like they do with the G6 and the
That's a good
G7 and
idea.
things like that. Because right now, we have that big building in New York, and we pay for so much of it.
Yeah.
And so maybe we need to look into running the UN a different way.
Right.
And I mean, I don't know, but I wouldn't break my heart, and I wouldn't shed a tear if the UN just went away.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I just think they're useless. They cause more problems than anything
Yeah.
nowadays. Yeah,
Well,
and
and
I
they
want to.
always rely on the U.S.
Oh yeah, always. So why even have them? So the other thing is, when it comes down to it, Europe should be taking care of all this. All the countries surrounding Ukraine, they all should be involved a lot more than what they are. And they just started putting some stuff out there as of yesterday because Zelensky ran over there and they were showing him hug people and everything else. And a lot of the radical Democrats are going, see, that's a true president. That's what a president's about. No, I'm seeing it all over social media sites. F
Oh
Trump,
yeah.
F this. You know what? I'm going to say it this way. If you're going to go against our government and you're going to say bad things when our government, our president's trying to do things here, guys, then get out of our country, go to Ukraine, live there if you love this guy so much. Get the hell out of my country. How about that? And I'll
Yep.
say it. And you guys know I don't cuss too much, but when I get mad about this stuff, yes. Just like I've said, get rid of the flags. This is the United States of America. The American flag stands for everything.
Well,
And
not only
I,
that, it's like you
yeah,
mentioned earlier
yeah,
that, I mean, early in the war,
yeah,
Zelensky was doing a lot of the right stuff. And it's
exactly.
like,
In the beginning,
but like I said, I just think that,
money
the
corrupts.
longer things went on and the more money that he started seeing,
Yeah,
and now all of a sudden he's starting to see the end of that gravy train. And
yeah,
with that, he's like, oh man, I was making so much money. And I think that some of these Democrats that met with him the day before he met with
yeah,
Trump,
yeah,
they were probably even egging him on that. Like, hey
yeah.
man, you got all this money and that's going to go away if you sign this agreement with Trump.
Oh, yeah,
Because people are going to be looking at the books and they're going to be seeing what you spent and where you spent it.
yeah,
So I think that they kind of scared him into, uh, going against Trump.
yeah, yeah. And, I just, I watch the guy, how he acts. He comes in there, and of course, he doesn't wear a suit, doesn't wear a tie, doesn't even. I don't even care if he was just wearing a suit, dress jacket, open shirt. That doesn't bother me. But the black outfit he's wearing all the time, everywhere, it's like, just stop. Just be
Yeah, we know
respectful
you're
to
at
all the
war. I
countries.
mean,
Yes, be respectful to all the countries. You have a suit and tie, wear it. At least
what?
wear the
Putin's
suit.
country is war. Putin wears a suit.
Yes. I mean, come on. This is what people do when they show respect to all countries. Trump goes over to their countries, so you don't see him running around with a black shirt and all this. No. He wears a tie all the time when he goes to these places in a suit and
Well,
all. It's
actually, I did
respect.
see a picture
Go
of
ahead.
Zelensky wearing a suit today, and
Really?
it was from when he went to the World Economic Forum. His meeting with Klaus Schwab.
Yeah.
So he doesn't wear one for Trump when he's coming to get money, but when
Yeah.
he's with all these, wealthy people that are trying to pull the strings in all the countries around the globe, he does. So that's kind of interesting.
Interesting. Very interesting. Actually, yeah, because I saw him over in Europe yesterday, and he was not wearing a tie then either. He was wearing that same
No,
black outfit.
no,
But
but I
they
think it
gave
was
him,
last year when he went to the World
yeah.
Economic Forum. I could be wrong on the date, but
Okay.
I remember when that happened. I remember that he had gone to that, and it was just very interesting that he was wearing a suit to meet with Klaus Schwab, but he doesn't wear one to meet with President Trump.
Yeah. Trust me. None of us like wearing suits, guys, but it's respect. That's what you do. It's just like a
Yep.
handshake, all that stuff. It's respect. People have forgotten about that. So, yeah, I'm going to say this because I'm going to go back into the social media sites, especially on some of the social media sites on the left out there when I'm watching them. They're just so brutal and things they say. I'm seeing things like F Trump, F this. I'm not going to say the word on the air here, but it's so many brutal things and so many lies, and so many things that people don't know what's going on. Even the Republicans, I'm seeing some of these Republicans out there posting stuff, and I'm just like, open your eyes. I will prove you wrong if you want to debate with me any day. I will prove you wrong, and I'll
Well, I
do
mean,
it
how
nicely.
funny is it
Yeah,
that these people are out there screaming and crying about, the Trump administration trying to get rid of the fraud, waste, and abuse through Doge, but
yeah,
these same people didn't
right,
demand to see where our money was going when we sent it to Ukraine.
right.
And it's like, are you kidding me? So, I mean, so in our own country, you're crying because you don't like the way that they're, uh, basically trying to balance the books,
Right.
but you were okay with just giving money, unabated to Ukraine and not even worrying about if it was going into somebody's pocket or if it was actually being used for what we sent it for. That's crazy.
I know. I know. And that's the thing about they all hate Musk right now. Elon Musk is doing a great job. Oh, no, he's not. I just heard it out there, people saying it when they see this video. Guys,
Oh yeah.
prove me wrong. Okay? Let's just
Well,
talk
he's
about
not
it.
a big fan of
No.
NATO
No.
or the UN either.
Yeah.
And and it's kind of funny. People
Yeah.
talk about, oh, he's just in this for the money. He doesn't need the money. He's literally the richest man in the world.
Right.
And so if he's trying to help end a war, he's not doing it for himself. As a matter of fact, in the
Yep.
beginning of this war, he gave Starlink for free to Ukraine.
Yeah.
So that they could have communication.
Well, it's not only that; he's paying his own people to work in the work up in D.C. and stuff too. They're not being
Oh
paid
no,
from
no,
the
I understand
government.
that, but I mean, as far as
Yeah.
the
Oh yeah,
whole
I know.
ending the war
Yeah.
and the meeting in the Oval Office and
Yeah.
but you're right, he's paying his own way, and he's not looking for compensation. Now he may be thinking long term that if he helps President Trump get all this stuff done, that people might remember that and then he could benefit from that later. But that's a what if, a maybe, or a guess. You know.
I honestly think that he's doing it just because he sees what's going on with the corruption and everything, and he just wants to help. I think that's what
Oh,
it is.
I totally agree.
I
I'm
think it's
just
coming from
throwing
his
out there
own
that if
heart.
you do want to
I
have a
will say it that way.
conspiracy theory,
Yeah.
I don't mean you personally, but
Yeah.
if somebody does want to have a conspiracy theory, probably the closest thing that I would give you on a conspiracy theory with Musk is just that maybe he's thinking long term,
Yeah.
you know. And so, but I don't even think it's that. I think you're right. He wants to see the right things done, and
Right.
he wants to see this war end, and
Yeah.
he wants to see because think about your legacy
Yeah.
100 years from now,
Oh yeah.
150
Yeah.
years from now. If somebody comes in and says, "Wow, this guy was the richest guy in the world, didn't need to do it, but he came in and helped the government find missing money
Right.
and get their budget balanced," and he
Yeah.
basically helped save America.
Oh yeah.
And
And it's already
so,
been billions.
yeah, and
Is that right?
frankly,
Yeah.
that's what Zelensky could be and should be doing, is thinking about his legacy as the guy that saved Ukraine.
Yeah.
And instead, he's just trying to enrich himself,
Yeah. I
in my
agree.
opinion.
I agree. And we're going to talk about Elon Musk and Doge and everything else in the
Yeah.
next couple of days. That's something we do need to talk about because people were saying prices of groceries are going up and all this. Yes, they're going to go up and they need to go up. You got to pay your bills, guys. Got to pay the debt. We've got a
Well,
big debt sitting up there.
that's the whole
Yeah.
premise behind these meetings with
Yeah.
Trump and Zelensky, is paying your bills.
Yeah.
When Trump came into office the first time, one of the things that he brought up that he was amazed at was that after the first Gulf War,
Mhm.
that we didn't get anything out of it. We didn't get any oil
No.
revenues. We didn't get anything. We just basically walked away
Yep.
with a bunch of money that we had spent on defending Kuwait and Saudi Arabia and countries like that. And he pretty much said something to the effect of that won't happen, going forward.
Right.
And that's kind of where he's going right now with Zelensky, is kind of like, hey, look, man, we're $300+ billion invested in your country,
Yeah.
and we need something back for it. Because, in the past, what the U.S. has always done is just we go in, there's a war, and then we rebuild the country that was at war,
Right.
and then they wind up. I mean, look at the economy of Japan right
Oh,
now,
yeah.
and it's like, and how did that happen? Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
World War II,
Yep.
and then after World War II, we helped Japan rebuild their economy.
Yeah.
And so, now they're making all kinds of money. And it's like, that's the kind of stuff that Trump's looking at. And if you go back and pull videos of Trump from when he was younger, he
Yeah.
even says stuff like that when he was in his 30s and 40s,
Mm-hmm.
when he was in interviews.
Yeah.
And
I know. I've
so,
seen him.
I mean, yeah. And it's just, so it's, he's right about that. And we do need to, basically just at least get our money back out of something like that. Yes, you want to do the right thing, but
Yeah.
After you do the right thing, well, don't make another country rich while your people are still struggling.
Exactly. And that's a good point. And that's why we can't give any more money or anything else. And yes, the money has stopped as of tonight.
And that's the whole thing behind the
Yeah.
mineral deal.
Yeah. Yeah, Jerry, again, I'm going back, and a lot of people may not know the money it's going to Ukraine has stopped as of tonight temporarily.
Yeah.
It's not permanent right now. It's just temporarily.
Oh, everything, money,
Right.
weapons, everything.
Everything. And this needs to be the case. And yes, I'm going to
Yep.
get yelled at by a lot of left right now, but you know what? I don't care, because until you want to debate with me and have a normal conversation and I can explain why, break it down, prove you wrong, there we go. So, and I dare you to do it, guys. Just
Well,
email me.
the whole thing is to support your point is
Yeah.
that Zelensky was supposed to sign this mineral deal in Germany like a week and a half,
I
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Then he didn't do that. And then he's like, oh, well, I want to come to Washington, D.C. and meet with you on the White House. And the whole deal was set up before he came to the White
Yep.
House, that he was going to the White
said
House
earlier.
to sign the mineral deal.
Yeah.
And then he gets there and wants to like start renegotiating it, start talking about how Russia owes us this and Russia owes us that. And I don't disagree that Russia should
Yeah.
be financially
Oh, yeah.
responsible, for compensating Ukraine
Right.
for everything that's happened. Russia's done horrible
Yeah.
financial damage to Ukraine. But the thing is, that sitting on the couch in the Oval Office is not the
Yep.
time or the place
Nope.
to have that conversation. You do that at the negotiating table. And that's,
Right.
Trump wrote the book, literally.
Right,
Wrote
and
the
that's
deal.
not Trump's decision to make that $300 billion from Russia. That's Putin's, and
No, but he can
them to do
present
it.
it to
Right, he can do it the right way.
people.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like, but here's Zelensky thinking he's going to sit here in the Oval Office and get Trump to agree to, something that is really, like you said, not Trump's to agree to.
Right. And it's just getting everybody to talk at the table. Not everything's going to be agreed on right away. It's just you're
No.
going to compromise some things. You're going to get some things. That's how negotiations work. You're not going to get everything you want.
Nope.
And
I mean, my personal opinion, the way
Yeah.
things should go is that
Yeah.
Ukraine should get every inch
Yeah.
of land back that was taken
I
by
agree.
the Russians. And that includes Crimea,
Yep.
even though that happened under Obama. But I think they
Oh,
should
yeah.
get every inch of land back that is Ukrainian land.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, there should be some sort of penalty on top of Russia's oil revenues for, say, like the next 15 years to compensate Ukraine. And, now when I say a percentage, the reason I put it that way is
Yeah.
if you just put a dollar amount, then as soon as Russia pays that dollar amount, they walk away.
Right.
So Ukraine, might not care if Russia does well in the world markets. But if you say, hey, you're going to get a percentage for 15
Yep.
years, then Ukraine's going to be out there pimping Russia, saying, hey, buy Russian oil, buy Russian natural gas,
Yeah.
because they're getting whatever the percentage is. The more that Russia makes, the more that Ukraine gets. So that would make sense.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, any other thoughts here, Jerry?
Yeah. Trump today said that this is not a dead deal. And,
of course
I
not.
agree. And I knew it
Shouldn't
was not
be.
a dead deal, but the media is flipping out and,
Of course.
President Trump doesn't want an end to the war. No,
Yeah,
he
he
does want
does.
one. That's the whole reason he's doing what he's doing. But, basically at this point, Zelensky has to do the right thing. And the right thing is not coming to America and talking trash to the very people that are trying to help you. And so
Yeah.
once he gets his head out of his backside, then, it's going to be a lot easier to move forward. And it's like, but right now it's kind of hard to, say, oh yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make sure that, everything works fine. We can't do that. We need them to do their part first. And then we can go ahead and, say, okay, we're going to help, the Ukrainians do this. We're going to help the Ukrainians do that. But they've got to agree to, want to end this first. And, you saw Zelensky in that video. A ceasefire doesn't mean anything. No, ceasefire is,
Yep.
but the ceasefire is not the goal.
Right.
The ceasefire is just the first step.
Right.
And, and that's what so many of these people are missing out on that are, criticizing Trump and, they're missing out on the fact that the ceasefire is not the goal. The goal is peace, but you start with a ceasefire.
And stop people from getting killed. If there's a ceasefire,
Exactly.
nobody's getting killed. So therefore,
It's a lot easier to negotiate when you don't have daily
absolutely,
pictures of
and
dead bodies in your streets.
right. And he's sitting here saying that, So he doesn't care about his own people at that point, in my opinion, or
No, I
anybody.
agree.
Yeah, to
But
say
I think it's
that.
gotten to the point where he
Yeah,
has collected so much money, like you and I
yeah,
were just saying, that
yeah,
um, I think he's lost his vision of where he should be going for his country
yeah,
because he's thinking about his own
yeah.
wallet.
Well, two things. I hope he pulls his head out of his ass, as you said, and gets his head
Yep.
together and comes to his senses and realizes, hey, you know what? I got to worry about my people and what's going on in this country of his, and stay in the office, or he needs to step down and get out of office.
Well, that
So,
after what
and that,
happened the
yeah,
other day, that would probably be the best thing for him to do,
right.
but his ego won't let him do it.
Right.
And
I don't think he had the ego when he got in there. I think he's gotten
no,
it over the last
well,
couple of
no, he was
years.
scared to death. He was president of
Yeah.
uh, you know, a country that's large land wise, but
Right.
not financially. And he was president of a country that had a lot of land that Russia was eyeing, and
Right.
Russia always has eyed. And, I mean, it's like now all of a sudden he's at war. I think he was scared to death, and he should have been.
Yeah.
And it's like, but, now I think he's just realized how profitable war can be for him. And in the beginning, they showed him running around. This goes back to
Yeah.
what you were
I
saying
remember.
earlier. They showed him running around, wearing his helmet, his flak vest, and things like that. And he was actually traveling out into the areas that
Yeah.
were getting hit because the Russians were pretty close to Kiev. They were
Yeah.
almost there in the capital.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
I mean, but now it's like, you don't see the same Zelensky that you
No.
saw back then.
No, you don't. No, you don't. And I'm just going to end off that subject for a minute. I'm going to go back to the people in this country, guys. You just need to do your own research. Quit defending this guy. We understand, we care about the people of Ukraine. We care about what's going on. And we hope this guy gets his head out of his ass and wakes up, and this will stop the fighting. Now, we know Putin's not a great guy. We know that. But this war is not going to stop. Many people are going to die. And if it continues, it might be World War III if this continues. I mean, you got other countries. North Korea is already sending people there. There's so many issues going
And
on
they've
right now.
lost a tremendous amount of people.
Right. And this has got to stop. Stop. It's about the people. It's not about, well, I'm going to support this president because I hate Trump. Wake up. This is America. You live here. Get your head out of your asses, people.
Yep.
And I'll say it that way. All right, Jerry, anything else? Because I'm going to end this now. We've been about 37 minutes, guys.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to keep this. Go ahead.
Like you said, just do your research and, I mean, have conversations. Don't try and go into a discussion with somebody trying to force your opinion and your view on them. Have conversations with people.
Yes.
And you might be very surprised at the results that you get.
Yeah.
Because too often, what's been happening, in the not too distant past is, people just go out and they get on Facebook. And when they get on Facebook, they're like, oh, well, I heard this.
Yeah.
Well, where did you hear it? And, that was like one of your first questions to me earlier. Hey, where'd you hear that information? And I was able to tell you where I heard it, but most people can't tell you. I was like, oh,
right.
Well, I heard some guy saying,
right.
Or I heard, or, novelty concept. We've been hearing about all these news anchors from some of the liberal TV stations are now getting terminated.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason for that is they weren't being honest. And so if that was your source, maybe you should rethink, where you're getting your information. And, but that's what I would just leave people with is have good information that you got from reasonable sources and have conversations. Don't go in, trying to impose your will or your opinion on somebody else, because that's unfortunately, that's the way the left does things for many years now is, you're welcome to have your own opinion as long as it's the same as mine.
Well, and this is something I'm going to talk about real quick, though. And this is where I wanted to say, guys, talk amongst each other. Democrats, Republicans, both, because when it comes down to it, we're all Americans. And where I'm going to say with this is, don't go to these sources like Jerry just said. talk amongst each other, but listen. Don't sit there, and I've seen it many times when I speak to certain individuals. Well, let me explain why. I don't want to hear it, but you got to express your side, and I listened. But when I actually want to talk about and express my opinion nicely, oh, I don't want to hear it. No, 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 no. Oh, why don't you want to hear it? I got to hear your side. Oh, just because. I mean, I get that a lot. It's
Yep.
because when I express my opinion, you're not going to agree with it. And if I can prove the point, maybe you don't want to see the truth. I don't know. I'm just saying. I've seen
Well,
that too
because
many
too
times.
often people,
They
when
don't
you're in
want
a
to be wrong.
conversation, well, not just that,
Yeah.
but watch the body language of
Oh, yeah.
people when you're in that kind of conversation, because what they're doing is they're sitting there and they're listening to you for you to stop for a second so that they can counter your point. They're not listening to learn, they're not listening
Yep.
to understand. They're listening until you take a break so that they can tell you why you're wrong.
So,
And
yep.
that's a big part of the problem in conversation in America today.
Right. As Jerry said that, just before he said that, when I was doing all this, explaining this, I was showing my body language and their body language at the same time. You didn't see that on camera, Jerry. I
Yep.
was actually going and closing up real quick when I did their side. It's funny. That's actually funny you said that.
Yeah, but it's just so true though. I mean, you
Yeah,
get people in a
it
conversation
is.
and they're only listening to get a chance to tell you that you're wrong. They're not listening to actually learn. They're not listening to have a conversation. They just want to wait for the moment to tell you that you're wrong and tell
Right.
you why.
Right. And I'm not saying all Republicans are right. No, we're
No.
all human, guys.
Oh no,
Nobody's perfect.
that's not one side specific.
No,
That's
no, no. We all have our bad sides.
yeah.
I mean, definitely. We're all just human, and that's what we're here to do in life. We're here to learn and go through life, and sometimes we don't learn, and sometimes if we learn a few things, I always say if I learn one thing a day, that's a great thing.
Yep.
I try to learn something new a day, and sometimes it's not always right. And sometimes I don't like being proven wrong, but it happens. We're all human. All right. Anything else there, Jerry?
That'll do it.
All right, guys, you know where this is going to end. I do want to thank our law enforcement for everything you guys do. I want to thank our military for everything you guys do. Our local farmers right now, and our regular farmers, I should say our farmers of America, for everything you guys are doing right now, especially with prices going up. We're hearing about it. It's going to happen. They're saying probably about till the end of the year, maybe a year at most. This should all get a lot better. I think by next year, we're going to see things change. You're going to see rates go down, all this stuff that's going to happen. They're getting invested in crypto. That's another story. We'll talk about that another night. But there's so many things that are going on that are going to turn this country around for the better, for not just us, for the whole world. And that's what we need to focus on. Well, guys, again, thank you for everything you do, our truck drivers and all. And Jerry, I just wanted to thank you for being on the podcast tonight.
Sure
We'll
thing.
have Jerry on many other nights, as always. And we're going to be doing these quite a bit from this point on. And you'll be seeing me out there quite a bit. So thank you. And always the main thing is God bless everybody in this world. God bless America. And God bless you all as well. Thank you. And thanks for listening. And remember, God's the number one thing here. Take care.